So we're going to talk about wealth building. Okay. We usually try to do about a month. Am I working? Like a robot. There we go. All right. CNN coming live. All right. Raise a hands right now. Step back from your real estate business. I want you to think about your wealth building, your net worth, your passive income. Okay. Where are you at financially with your wealth building goals? Who in the room right now, whether it's your age, your income, like you just overall satisfaction level are an 8 or above on your wealth building area of life? Raise your hand if you're an 8 or above on your wealth building area of life. Yeah? Jonny, you're an 8 or above, right? Okay, who is 6 to 8? 6 to 8. Okay, 5 or below. 5 or below. Okay, 5 or below. Tell me why you're not as happy as you should be or want to be with your wealth building, passive income, net worth. You want them to be bigger numbers? Yeah. Any other reasons why you're not as happy as you want to be in that area of life? You're old. Okay, thank you. So maybe a little procrastination or something in there. A lot of that. YOLO. Okay. So we're going to talk about kind of the path to money, wealth building. I sort of took your direction, probably go in a different direction a little bit, but you guys know, I was going to bring it down, but who in here has read the MREA, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, the red book? Raise your hand high. Who's read it? Who's opened it at least? You stared at one page. Okay, a bunch of you. Who has read the MREI, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor? Okay, who's opened the blue book? Less of you. Okay. That's actually one of Gary Keller's most frustrating things with our company is the lack of people that have engaged specifically with the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book compared to the MREA. He wrote those to be companion books, but they've sold several million MREAs and they've only sold, I don't know, what was like 100,000 MREIs or something, which is probably a little relevant to kind of just some of the scenarios we've got in our company. There's been a little bit more focus on your income, not necessarily on the wealth building or passive income side. So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. In the MREI, Shoni shared this with me. But again, your investment energy could come from reviewing your budget, your net worth sheet. No doubt you should be building your wealth building energy by seeing real estate, doing some rental analysis, like getting excited to go build your investment portfolio out there. But just to go over a couple basics before I jump into this. Again, this is Gary Keller's 2 kinds of capital. There's either you work for money or money works for you, right? You work for money, money works for you, which is human capital and capital assets. Either way, that is cash flow that comes into your life. You have 4 places what you can do with those resources of money, right? You can spend it, donate it, save it, invest it. Where does 99% of income go in the country right now? Government. Investing. We're actually really diligent. We're really smart. Yeah, government's great with money. Everything's going well. No, we spend it, right? We got some great donations out there, but even saving, investing tends to be neglected, right? And again, if you focus on spending first, what's going to be left over to save, invest? Probably not very much, right? You guys know this is something I subscribed to a long time ago. This is called the trifecta. This is the basic org chart of what your world as a real estate salesperson should look like. I always talk about the left side and the right side and how those two symbiotically relate to each other in my life is almost inseparable now because I've focused on this so much. On your left side, you should be focusing on S corporation. You should have your S corp, your corporation that has the S election for the taxation purposes of it. That is all your ordinary income path. That is real estate commissions, real estate flips, maybe land development. Should be, some any just ways. Basically, I look at this like you're swapping your time for money is that left side, right? Your right side should be in an investment LLC. Any rental property you own should be sitting in your investment LLC. That is your long-term assets, your long-term gains. Your money is making money on that side. Either way, those two kind of flow down into your life. But even ownership wise, those should be owned by your family trust, right? Everybody should have a family trust that owns those. My dream, I have a dream that every KB Westfield agent invest 30% of every dollar they make when they're swapping their time for money. You make 100,000, you make 10,000, you make $1 million. I don't care what your income is. You have to build the habit that you're moving 30% over to your investment journey. I've been saying this for how long, Novali? When you get into real estate, you don't have one business, you have two businesses. You have your real estate sales business, you have your wealth building business. Who's heard me say that? Who's ignored me when I said that? All right, a few of you. And then again, as your world grows, you might end up with multiple businesses. You might end up with multiple LLCs that you have properties in. Either way, no matter how big your life gets, you should still abide by that simple 70-30 rule. Live off 70, invest 30%, okay? So one of the challenges that I have, or I've kind of noticed over the last 16 years, I'm renewing my license for the 8th time, 16 years. This July, I'm hitting. One of the sad things that I've seen and witnessed over my tenure in Keller Williams and real estate is we've got a lot of people that are tremendously successful in real estate sales-wise that don't invest their money and buy rental properties. We've got a lot of agents in this county that made a lot of money over the last 10 years, and they don't really have a ton to show for it as far as assets or net worth goes, right? And that's really what I wanted to chat about today, why that happens and how do you start fixing that, okay? This is just a quick thing that I found from Brian Tracy. 5 reasons why most don't become wealthy. Why is it that people don't become wealthy in a country like ours with the opportunities that we have? Why is it that so few people retire financially independent? And I eventually found the answers. Here's what I consider to be the 5 reasons why people don't become wealthy. Do you think it's possible in the United States of America to become a millionaire? Why are the vast majority of people not millionaires? Is it the country? Is it the opportunity? Is it that it's not out there? Or is it something to do with themselves? Probably something internally they haven't got over yet, right? So let's go through these 5 reasons. First one, who, me? First, at the top of the list is that it never occurs to them. The average person has grown up in a family where he has never met or known anyone who is wealthy. He goes to school and socializes with people who are not wealthy. He works with people who are not wealthy. He has a reference group or a social circle outside of work who are not wealthy. He has no role models who are wealthy. If this has happened to you throughout your formative years up to the age of 20, you can grow up and become a fully mature adult in our society. And it may never occur to you that it's just as possible for you to become wealthy as for anyone else. This is why people who grow up in homes where their parents are wealthy are much more likely to become wealthy as adults than people who grow up in homes where their parents are not. So the first reason why people don't become wealthy is it never occurs to them that it is possible for them. And of course, if it never occurs to them, then they never take any of the steps necessary to make it a reality. Does that resonate with anybody? I look back once I heard this several times, and I honestly think I made it probably to the age of maybe 24, 25 years old here in Utah. I grew up in Utah in the United States, 24, 25 years old before I truly felt like I had met a millionaire, net worth of $1 million. Because again, the family tree, where I grew up, my neighborhood, my schools, all that sort of stuff, the environment that I was in, had I just stayed in that road or that pathway, I think I honestly wouldn't have actually questioned myself. Who, me, right? It was where I stepped out of my family or stepped out of my environment. Keller Williams was huge for me on just having a big network and thinking bigger. But that's number one. If this resonates with you, you need to step out of your circle a little bit and start meeting some people to then create the vision that it could be you, right? I told a story all the time. The first family reunion Clay and I went to, we'd closed, I think, like 20 deals the year before. We went there thinking we were the coolest kids in school. We were like, we're ballers. We go to family reunion. We see people up on stage that are closing 500, 800, 900 transactions. Quick, humbling time frame for us. But it really just exposed us to what's possible. You know, the very first time I'm like, oh, would that be cool? You know, then it started planting a seed in me that says, why not me? Why couldn't I go do that? And that's usually where it starts. And then the second reason, I'll hurry and read this. This one was a big one. This one really struck a chord with me. But the second reason that people don't become wealthy is that they never decide to. Even if a person reads a book, attends a lecture, or associates with people who are financially successful, nothing changes until he makes a decision to do something different. Even if it occurs to a person that he could become wealthy, if he just did certain things in a specific way, if he doesn't decide to take the first step, he ends up staying as he is. If you can continue to do what you've always done, you'll continue to get what you've always got. The primary reason for underachievement and failure is that the majority of people don't decide to be successful. They never make a firm, unequivocal commitment or definite decision that they are going to become wealthy. They mean to, they intend to, and they hope to, and they're going to someday. They wish and hope and pray that they will make a lot of money, but they never decide. I am going to do it. This decision is an essential first step to becoming financially independent. You simply make the decision. I've often talked about my childhood, my family tree being paycheck to paycheck. I was thinking this morning, Mike, what point can I vividly remember that I made the choice that I want to go be a millionaire? I don't know. I knew it was very early on, and it was probably sitting in a class in Keller Williams. But let me ask a couple investors. Angie, I know you've made the commitment to be an investor. Somewhere along the road, you chose that you were going to be an investor and you want to build wealth. Do you know why or how that happened?
I can tell you there was a monumental moment at 19, and I was selling insurance and starving. I think I was eating ramen. And I was in this group of people though, and he said, if you want to be a millionaire, you just have to spend time with millionaires. That was the first thing. And the second thing was the number one thing that you can do is to be coachable and teachable. Everything else will work if you just show up and be coachable and teachable.
Okay. Bronson, I know you, and you've made the choice to be a millionaire in your lifetime. Why and when did you make that choice?
Yeah, I would say I probably made that choice before I even graduated high school, before I got my real estate license. I'd kind of already made that decision. That was the path I wanted to go down.
Cool.
So, yeah.
So when it comes to making a decision, you emotionally, truly, authentically made a choice that you're an investor and you want to be a net worth millionaire. If you can honestly say yes, I want you to stand up right now. You've made the decision to be a net worth millionaire. Stand up right now. Give them a hand. Yes. Yes. Okay. Who else? Does anybody else want to share? Any memories pop up of when you remember making the choice? Susie, I was going to call you anyways. Thank you for volunteering.
I was a very keen sales student, and I had big goals of, I earned 3 cars and diamond rings and things, but getting my real estate license and coming to Keller Williams, I left for 1 month when I first got my license, and I went over to a discount brokerage and I sat in the room and thought, oh dear, I've made a huge mistake. And it really has been being here surrounded and listening to really you and Clay, Jonny, you guys, you've done a phenomenal job of teaching us what we need to do to invest and create that wealth, which then probably goes higher to Gary Keller and all of that. But it's been really fun. I put all my money in real estate. Some women buy purses, some women buy shoes, but I just buy real estate, and it's been fun.
Awesome. Awesome. Anybody else want to share? Okay. Go ahead. Yeah.
When I did commercial real estate in LA, I had a client that managed over 1,100 units, apartment units there. He owned a couple hundred himself here. And we had on the phone, we had a time to talk, and, he opened up and basically said, when he was a kid, he was poor as can be here. And that being poor is what made that decision as a kid, that he was going to be rich. And I think it happens that way. And I think maybe sometimes rich kids that grow up, who inherit it all, end up losing it because they've never really gone down that path.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, if you were one of those who didn't stand up when I had you stand up, think through that. Like, figure out what would it take for you to be able to emotionally commit to that. Because committing to that doesn't mean you necessarily have all the information, you know what to do, when to do it, why to do it. A lot of times when you make the commitment, it's based truly off your commitment, and then the plan will find itself out, you know, or you'll figure that out later, you know. So muster that up a little bit. And I joke about it a little bit, but sometimes some of the best ammo for me was when I would meet real estate agents that I felt like were nowhere near impressive, and they were millionaires. And I'm like, I met enough dumb people that are millionaires. It clearly can be possible for me. So just think about it. What is it going to take for you to be able to emotionally commit that you're ready to be that person that wants to go do it? Because nothing will matter after that if you don't make the decision. Okay? Because again, the emotional decision, logic makes you think, emotions make you act, right? I have taught so many wealth building classes over the last 10 years that people did nothing that have sat in those classes. So I give them the information, but somewhere you've got to stir up the emotional commitment that actually turns you into action. Because the path's in the math. There is absolutely a way that every one of you can be a millionaire. I'm not even going to go over one I just crunched yesterday. You just have to make the decision. The next one is maybe tomorrow. The third reason that people don't become wealthy is procrastination. People always have a good reason not to begin doing what they know they need to do to achieve financial independence. It is always the wrong month, the wrong season, or the wrong year. Business conditions in their industry are no good, or they may be too good. The market isn't right. They may have to take a risk or give up their security maybe next year. There always seems to be a reason to procrastinate. As a result, they keep putting it off month by month, year by year, until it's too late. Even if it has occurred to a person that they can become wealthy and they have made a decision to change, procrastination will push all their plans into the indefinite future. Time, no doubt, is your most valuable resource, not only on the planet, but it's also your most valuable input to wealth building. Time will make all of you look very smart. And the earlier in your life that you accept some of these things, the easier it's going to be. If you're sitting in your 50s or even 60s, you're going to have to probably make a little bit harder changes to start that pipeline to catch up for some of your procrastination. But again, the best day to do it was yesterday. The second best day is today, right? So you have to commit to non-procrastination. Pay the price. The fourth reason that people retire poor is what economists call the inability to delay gratification. The great majority of people have an irresistible temptation to spend every single penny they make and whatever else they can borrow or buy on credit. If you cannot delay gratification and discipline yourself to refrain spending everything you make, you cannot become wealthy. If you cannot practice budgeting as a lifelong habit, it will be impossible for you to achieve financial independence. If you cannot save money, the seeds of greatness are not in you. I think that first one of making the commitment, the emotional commitment that you want to become wealthy, goes hand in hand with this one. The people that I know have the deepest sense of commitment to building wealth, somehow they appear like it's easier and easier for them to live below their means. Other people that do not make the commitment to be wealthy, somehow it becomes very hard for them to not procrastinate or to delay gratification, right? And that's why when I talk about these things, part of this is I see a lot of our agents that have pretty great goals, consistently raising them. When you look at a 10, 20, 30-year career in real estate, they've had tremendous progress on their left side, on their earned income. When you don't have goals written or set whatsoever on your right side, it is going to be a lot harder to actually operate or even have that same emotional commitment, right? And then the last one is take the long view. The fifth reason that people retire poor is perhaps as important, if not more important than all the others. It is a lack of time perspective. It is a longitudinal study conducted by Edward Banfield at Harvard University in the 50s and published in 1964. He studied the reasons for upward socioeconomic mobility. He wanted to know how you could predict whether an individual or family was going to move upward one or more socioeconomic groupings and be wealthier in the next generation than they were this generation. All his research brought him to a single factor that he concluded was more accurate than any other in predicting success in America. They called it time perspective. This was defined as the amount of time that you take into consideration when planning your day-to-day activities and when making important decisions in your life. Time perspective referred to how far you projected into the future when you decided what you were going to do or not do in the present. An example of long-term perspective is the common habit of upper-class families in England to register their children at Oxford or Cambridge as soon as their child is born, even though he or she will not be attending for 18 or 19 years. This is a long-time perspective in action. The young couple that begins putting $50 aside a month aside in a scholarship fund so that their newborn child can go to the college university of his or her choice is a couple with long-term perspective. They are willing to sacrifice in the short term to assure better results and outcomes in the long term. People with long-time perspective almost invariably move up economically in their course of their lifetimes. For me, I basically got real very early on in my 20s and realized I was never going to invent anything. I was never going to start a technology company. I was never going to be a crypto genius. I did not have a fast track to becoming wealthy. I had to choose the old boring philosophy of just buying a little real estate every year over many years that I was going to look up after 10, 20, 30 years and I was going to be a millionaire. I just tried to find the most proven, probable path that a mediocre, normal person like me could plug into that would actually help me accomplish being wealthy. And that was fundamentally my reason for staying in real estate, that I said, it's fun, I like it, it's freedom, it's flexibility. It is the most likely path I'm going to become a millionaire. It wasn't that I'm going to go start a company and turn into a billionaire overnight. I ruled that out for me, okay? If you still think that might be you, kudos to you. This is not the class for you. This is the long-term wealth building plan that I'm going to give you, okay? I'm going to give you a foolproof millionaire path, okay? 5 habits. This is just another way of saying some of those things. 5 habits that will keep you from wealth. Failing to stick to a budget. You do not stick to a budget, highly likely you're going to fail to build wealth. Carrying too much debt when your lifestyle is more important than investing, highly unlikely you're not going to build wealth. Not investing, good chance you're not going to have wealth, right? Investing too conservatively, you will never save your way to being a millionaire. Good luck. If you think that's the path, highly unlikely. And then growing complacent in your professional life. Absolutely. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, okay? So I want to do I polled a property. I want to do a real life example right now, and we're going to run with those numbers, okay? What is the number one challenge right now in owning real estate or trying to buy real estate in the state of Utah? Yep. First colony, raised interest rates across the country. Just kidding. Interest rates and our ability to cash flow or break even on a property, right? So wait, I'll quiz someone who, all right. What are the 4 benefits of owning a rental property?
4 benefits: appreciation, cash flow, depreciation, and renters pay off your mortgage.
Cash flow. Rental income minus all your expenses is cash flow. Could be a positive number or a negative number right now. Appreciation is just consistently the market goes up over time, right? Debt reduction, every payment your renters are paying goes a portion to your debt reduction, and then tax benefits, okay? So here's a property. This is a condo and vineyard. I pulled this up yesterday. It's listed by some other brokerage. You guys should have got this listing. Condo and vineyard, it's listed. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1305, is that right? 1265 square feet. What's the one that you're buying in? How much? What's the price? 343. Okay, so this one's 350 right there in Vineyard. Still sitting active if anybody wants to go buy it once I run these numbers, okay? Here's the facts that I'm going to run off. $350,000 purchase price. We're going to just straight out 20% down payment. That's how I ran this model. $70,000 down payment. Loan amount, $280,000, assuming you use your commission to cover any closing costs, right? So you're not bringing anything else to the table. Interest rate, Sheila, thank you, 7.25%. Just kidding. You could beat that. 7.125? Okay. Just principal and interest payment is $1,910. Property taxes is $1,783 a year. HOA fees, $206 a month. Your property management, 8%. Might get a better rate on that. And then maintenance reserves, 5%. Just normal numbers, okay? Here is, if we could go back in time. I got a ton of rental properties right now that I don't have any of them higher than 3.5. We really crushed the refinance. This is what this property would have looked like under the old school days of a 3.5 interest rate. Our cash flow, even at those interest rates, would have been negative $111 a month. So even in old rates, we still would have been negative cash flowing, part of because prices have gone up. Here's all those expenses. Well, let's look at a 5% loan interest rate. Nothing changed but 5%. Negative monthly cash flow is $357 a month. And here is the reality of 7.25% interest rate. We're negative cash flowing $764. Would you buy it? If this is all the data you had, maybe that's a no, right? Who would buy this? Don't jump ahead. Yes. And just get bunk beds in all the rooms. Okay, all right. So here it is, okay? So this is, a lot of you seen how I do this. So here's cash flow. Negative $764.34 a month, which is $9,172 loss a year. Divide that by your $70,000 payment. Just cash flow, we're negative 13.1% ROI on your money, right? Here's your appreciation. Again, over the last 50 years, up and down markets just totally smoothed out. On average, homes will appreciate 4% a year, right? So if you're going to look at the next 20, 30 years, 4% is a very fair number. Did anybody go to the UCAR Housing Summit or watch that? So they had two different economists kind of speak, and one of the stats I love that they do is they track like very analytically just total number of households. There's only two ways: people move in, or we have babies and we grow households, right? Both of them were within 2,000 homes shortage right now. I don't know if you remember that. One said we're 30,000 homes underbuilt in the state, just in Utah. Another one said 28,000 homes short. So they're pretty dang close, which is a realistic number of how the shortage. So regardless of what's going on with the Fed and the mortgage rates and a potential recession, blah, 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 we're still living in a shortage housing market, right? So for me, the next 10 years, I highly doubt that it's going to be 4%. Personally, I think it's going to be more like 6-7% on average over the next decade, but I still just ran this at 4%. Okay, so 4% now value, we bought it at 350. Next year, 1 year later, it's 364. That's $14,000 of appreciation. 14,000 divided by 70,000 is a 20% ROI. 20% ROI, just appreciation. Okay, so now let's talk about mortgage payments. Here's your loan amortization. Our monthly payment, again, is $1,910. Here's the first year of payments. Banks make their money, right? $20,000 of those payments is going to interest. $2,700 is going to principal pay down. Very first month. Do you want to get that? Just kidding. Principal, the very first month, principal payment, you're only paying $218 mortgage principal balance reduction, right? Here's the second year, here's the third year. So again, first year is the worst you're going to get on debt reduction, right? It only gets better than that. That's how amortization works. But how does depreciation work? And we're not talking about accelerating. We're not talking about cost segregation. We're just talking straight line depreciation. Straight line depreciation for residential properties, 27.5 years. So basically the easy method of doing that is just times on the property value by 3.636%. That'll give you your 1 year straight line depreciation method, okay? So again, here is your principal pay down, your debt reduction. That first year, $2,700 principal, interest $20,000, divide by $70,000 down payment. Your principal reduction is another 3.9% ROI of your down payment. Here's your taxes, interest. You get your interest deduction. Here is your 1 year depreciation. And then here is, because we took a cash flow loss, this is something different. You're going to get that cash flow loss of $9,000 added up together, $42,000. I'm assuming that you're a real estate agent and you have your left side rolling. Times that by the average tax bracket in the country right now. And then there's the state, so 28.85%. Basically, you're going to pay $12,000 less in taxes by offsetting all the loss that you're taking on that rental property and writing off your $42,000 of commission. Okay, that divided by 70% is a 17.4% ROI. Add all those together, 28.2%. So if I told you, hey, despite Sheila's mortgage rate, give me your money, I'm going to give you a 28.2% year one ROI, would you buy the property? Would you take that investment? Yeah, right? 28.2%. That's basically what EXP's rev share pays, right? Just kidding. Just kidding. 28.2%. Normally when you do this, when you have cash flow instead of a negative, you could end up being 50, 60, 80% ROI of your money. But it's great, right? So let's talk about what the plan is. You're not gonna be able to read this. I zoomed up, but I want to just see the whole thing. This is a spreadsheet I built for you. I'm gonna have Jonny share it with you guys. Here is if you bought one rental property a year. Who thinks they could go buy a rental property a year? Who actually has that goal? You want to buy at least one rental property a year. Great. If you don't have that goal, raise your hand, because now you just accepted Jonny's challenge that your commitments to buy one rental property a year. Okay. So this is basically year one, you're buying one property and you're keeping it for 30 years. Year two, you buy the second one. Year three, you buy your third one. So I'll zoom up a little bit to see what that looks like. This is the first 10 years. So as you can see, average appreciation 4%. That first property we just bought at 350. The next year it's worth 364. The next year it's worth 378. But year two, we're not buying a property for 350 because value's gone up. So we're buying that property for the 364, right? And every year you're just buying that property. Over here is your liabilities because you're putting that 20% down, 280. Balance goes down. The next one, 291's the loan balance, and it just keeps going. You just keep accumulating one rental property a year and just keeping them all, right? So here is just simply volume of real estate. So forget cash flow, forget tax benefits, forget debt reduction, right? Now we're simply just talking about equity in these rental properties. You bought it, you set it, you forgot it, and you just kept it, okay? Year one, you own one rental property, you put down $70,000. Your liability, your loan's worth that. So your net worth year one is simply that $70,000, right? But every year it keeps going. After 10 years and 10 properties, you now own $4.9 million of real estate. You have loans of $2.7 million. Your net worth just after 10 years is $2.2 million. $2.2 million. Here's the second decade. So again, you're now up to 20 rental properties. You own 14 million, you owe 5 million. You have a $9 million net worth from buying one property a year. Now 30 years, committing to 30 years. And I ran this from 35 to 65, average retirement age. So you were a little late, 35 to 65. If we can and really try to train with all of our Quantum Leap and Quantum Leap kids can, Gary's vision is we want these kids understanding this in their teens. So they start this in their 20s. All right, 20s, 30s, 40s. By 50, you have a net worth of $25 million. Would you be okay with that? Yeah? Okay. And again, here's your down payment. So every year, because property is going up, you've got to figure out how you're going to come up with that down payment. So year one, $70,000 your goal. Year three, $75,000, that type of thing. Okay. And again, one of the challenges that I see is when agents don't have a written wealth building plan on their right side, they lose motivation and sometimes complacency creeps in on their left side. I've seen a lot of our agents that own no rental properties. They have no wealth building going on. They've been in real estate a long time. All of a sudden, the market gets funky, even though they've been making great money. They look up and they're like, it's now harder to make money and I got to work more hours. I don't want to do this anymore. Maybe I'm going to go start another business. Maybe I'm going to go mow lawns. You know, has anybody thought about getting out of real estate the last couple of years? Be honest. If you haven't, you're in trouble because everybody's just kidding. But again, a lot of times I'll tell you the last 16 years for me, having clear wealth building goals has tripled, if not quadrupled my energy to go make a great income, right? And a lot of times when I have goals that are wealth building goals on top of it, it's forced me to go close a couple more deals to then go fund that, right? If I had no wealth building going on the last 10 years, the market gets funky. It's now harder to make the same amount of money. Absolutely, I would let that sink me. You know, I would go into like anxiety. I would be like a lot of our agents that just, it took several months of this market to finally just give up and say, all right, fine, I'll make my calls again. Who neglected lead generation the last couple of years? A few of you, yeah. So here's just another thing that I want to show you. So here is your net worth growth plan. Net worth growth plan. So again, every year, I'm just taking those same numbers. So by year 30, you're at that $25 million net worth. My whole goal every year is simply to have enough money. I make enough money that I can invest 30%. So if you were to invest 30% of your income, come up with a down payment, that basically should be your income goal if you were abiding by that 70-30. So by the time in this plan, you're 35 years old, Bronson, he's got to at least have a goal for $230,000 of income. So then 70 grand comes over the 30%, which becomes that down payment, right? And that is what's been for me, the increase that I've made on my left side that created the motivation to keep growing my income better. If you don't have wealth building plans, a lot of times that's where you see agents stay at one level of production because they're not creating the motivation from the right side. Does that make sense? And then here is passive income. Some of the wealthiest people I know, I usually like to ask them, at what point did you truly feel financially free? And this has been proven like 10 different times for me. The vast majority of people say 25 million net worth. And I'm like, dang, that is a big number. And the reason typically why is if you were to just totally be done and retire and have someone manage your money, it being in rental properties, not even businesses, because you could get sucked back into businesses you own, is usually around that 4 to 5% number. That you could go out and just have a money manager do it. They'll pay you 4 or 5% dividends, 4% cash flow on rental properties or whatever. So a lot of times 25 million, I adopted that as my main wealth building goal is I want a $25 million net worth. So that passively will kick out 4%, which ends up being that $1 million passive number. So again, I've said that for years that my passive income goal that I want to get to is just $1 million. I want to somehow own enough real estate that nets me $1 million a year. What that equates to on the net worth side is $25 million net worth. You can consistently do that. You could probably do that with less, but that is just a very conservative number. So that's why I built that 30-year plan. So time value money. Matt Christensen, what's time value money? The eighth wonder of the world.
Time is going to pass. You might as well be making money. So the longer you can sit on an investment, of course, the higher the value it's going to create.
Yeah, so Albert Einstein says this, right? Compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. Compound interest, also known as the greatest invention ever by mankind, is basically your money earns money, right? Even savings accounts these days. I got several savings accounts around the 4 or 5%. That's great, right? But again, that market goes up and down. But our money earning money is the whole point of wealth building, right? So let's talk about even time value money, because I wanted to blow your mind with that same number. We just went over a very realistic property that guarantees you in a conservative estimate right here in Utah down the road a 28.2%. So what happens if we really go up to 6 or 7% appreciation? What would that do to this metric? Totally send this crazy, right? Even let alone double-digit appreciation. What about cash flow? Does rent go up over the next 30 years? Right? Your mortgage payment's going to be fixed unless you refinance with a lower rate and bring it down. So this can only get better, most likely, right? What about here? This is worst case scenario, right? First year, you pay the most amount of your payments into interest. So this is worst case. So do you think this could get better? So let's even use this as worst case scenario, but time value money. Who right now can pull out your phone and calculate time value money? Somebody know how to do that? So that's one of the challenges I'm going to tell you at the end. But this, Google time value of money calculator. I learned this like 12 years ago, sitting in a college class, and it just blew my mind. I've probably played with my calculator 10,000 times, just calculate, what if I did this? What if I did this? What if I put more money in? Or what if I had a higher interest rate? What if I waited longer? This is basically calculating, what are you starting with? What is the rate of return your net worth's going to gain? How much money, if any money, you're going to contribute every month or every year? Over time, what is my net worth going to be over time? Okay, and that's kind of what this calculates. So here's an example. Present value, we're assuming we're starting at 0, right? If you have $100, you can put $100 or whatever that is. We're talking about a 30-year committed career to wealth building and a real estate sales path. We're just going to run at a 5% ROI. We talked about a 28.2 and a foolproof plan to go do that. A 5% rate of return. This is a savings account right now. So every year you put that down payment just in these savings accounts, and somehow you can just keep that savings account at 5% over 30 years. But it also shows you that that 70,000 is growing 4% a year. So it keeps up with a down payment of a rental property. So after 30 years of investing that down payment to buy the rental property, and just going up 5% ROI after 30 years, you're going to actually end up having $7.5 million. If you take the tax benefits, the cash flow, the debt reduction, some of those other things to get that percentage, just 5% a year, you're going to end up at 7.5 million. What does the S&P index always say? What's their rate of return over the last 30, 40 years? 8%, 8%. So if we did the same exact numbers across here, 30 years, down payment in, but we're investing into S&P index, we get 8% return over 30 years. What do you think the net worth would be after that? If you dedicated to doing this for 30 years at an 8% return? 11.9 million. So again, even if you don't buy rental properties and you just dump that 70 grand a year into your S&P index fund or something, that's what it's going to turn out to be. What about 12%? 1% a month. What do you think a 12% would do to that number? Hunter, what's your guess? 23 million dollars. So again, 12%, 12%. Now let's look at 28.2. What if you just followed my plan, worked as hard as you had to just to come up with one down payment to put 20% down on a condo, one property a year for 30 years, and you actually got the 28.2% growth ROI every single year, what would that do to your net worth after 30 years? Guess. Guess. You would change your friend group? 57 million? 75 million? Going once? $497 million net worth.
Okay, but don't you have to take into consideration capital gains, because you can never actually get that money out of there without losing 30%.
Do you need all that 497 million to live off? Yep. Again, the whole plan is just at one point, are you good? You know, what's your net worth? What's your passive income that you're okay with stopping or whatever? But if you bought a property every year, did the same exact thing I just laid out, you could end up with almost a $500 million net worth. And if I had $500 million in assets, yeah, why would you ever sell? Right? Because again, to go live off more than $1 million, like I guess you have a jet and a yacht at that point, I don't know, but $1 million a year is a tremendous amount of money. You even just go for cash flow or dividends off them staying in the assets. What's 4% times 500 million? $20 million. You're spending $1.5 million a month that you could just blow and keep starting over every month. Crazy, right? So again, when the numbers are here and the paths and the math, why do not every single one of our agents do this?
Hard to come up with $70,000.
Yeah. Why else? Fear? Yeah.
But you know, when she talks about it's hard to come up with 70,000, you can start though with doing it with somebody, right? Like you can do your first couple of deals until you know you're able to do it yourself, right? Do you know what I mean? There's a way.
I think your first couple of deals are the hardest. That's why you gotta jump in and see if you get like, this is how we help our.
The first couple deals are the hardest. This is like why it's so important that we help our clients understand the value of them being able to get into their very first property and coach them and teach them how they can turn that into an investment property and move to the next one and move to the next one. Like that's where the momentum will come. I think there's just a huge miss if we don't do it because we think it's hard. It's like, well, what would I have to do to make it less hard?
Yeah. What else? I thought a lot about this the last several years. But number one for me, it is crazy how many of our just young agents are just being crazy scrappy and doing whatever it takes to get into their first couple rental properties. And then I look up and I look over and I see a lot of our agents in their 30s and 40s that just made $150,000, $200,000 and they bought no rental properties the last year. And I'm like, people that have less versus people that have more, they're actually the ones going out and doing it, right? I also think there's a little bit of, when I say the balance of this left side versus right side, a lot of our agents that are probably making great money, one of their objection would be, well, I'm not even making enough money to fulfill all my wants, on my left side. So why would I want to invest money over here? And again, that's reverse thinking in my book. I'm actually sacrificing my lifestyle, delaying gratification to try to go out and invest to get that snowball rolling so then I can live like no one else, right? Another one too is just for me, clarity of just having a goal. Most likely me behaviorally, I probably would have made $100,000 in a year, right? But because I have the wealth building goal, my goal is now $170,000. So I go out and act like my goal is 170, and I've accomplished that just because I tack on what additional income I want to go to my investing side, right? What else? Go ahead.
Mindset of maybe the 20s is a lot different than the mindset of 40, 50. The 40 and 50-year-old. First of all, 50-year-olds. So I watched parents and people around me lose property after property and handing over their rentals because things got crazy. And then I watched, 2000, we watched. There's a lot less fear in a 20, 30-year-old invincible mentality.
And
They're not
don't want to
raising.
give stuff up.
They're
I
not
would like
raising.
my heated seats.
Yeah,
I would like to go. Like,
Yeah,
but
but
you
you
get
look
look
like
like
a lot of
we don't want to
age-
sacrifice.
Yeah, but those agents that age, they're driving nice cars. They're not giving it up. They haven't seen as many hard times and they're not raising 6 kids. For sure. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, like, I wish I would have started way back when, right? My mom was an agent. She's been an agent for 50 years. It's a mentality, and it's good to be sitting right here listening to you because it's gonna put us on a path, right? And it sounds possible when you're in a room with this many people. So that's awesome, but at 55, how, I'm not gonna hit the numbers, like you said, that time value, right? I'm never gonna catch up to my son, who started 5 years ago. He's already got his rent, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna catch up.
No, I was talking to Andrew about it last week, though, and I'm like, it's gonna be uncomfortable. You just gotta decide, like, what part's uncomfortable? Do you want to go make money? That can be uncomfortable. Do you want to go live in a place maybe you don't want to live in so you can step up to the next spot? Do you, like, what are you willing to do to make that happen? Somehow there's some uncomfortableness that happens because it doesn't just come because it's like, okay, like it looks really sexy, Johnny, to be like, I'm gonna be worth $500 million. But there is some sacrifice that comes to that space that makes it so it happens. Like, you do have to decide what you're willing to do. And I think there's some scrappiness that you see on some of these kids and you're like, I don't know if I'm willing to be that uncomfortable. I would like my heated seats. I don't want to go to there's certain things I don't want to give up, and I want to be comfortable even in what I want to make. I'm like, oh, am I willing to do that little bit more to make that? I don't know.
You
I'm
can
almost
just
50. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. Like,
Yeah.
just hang out here.
I think just do something. Imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. And I think, like, even if I had a 10th of that number, I don't know, figure out how to partner up with somebody.
Yeah. But again, there's a lot scrappier ways to get that first 1 or 2. I think we got to 3 rental properties, all the scrappy ways you can before the 4th one is when we truly put down the 20%, right? And then it just cash flow, we had equity, we cash out, it got a little bit easier, so that first 1 or 2, yes, you might have to be scrappy, but I think this is a lot more of an emotional job than it is an information or environment job, right? Because again, everything's hard. It is hard to get wealthy. It's hard to be broke. It really is. Like, being broke, that you're looking your kid in the eye and you don't know where their next meal is going to be coming from. The guilt and the negative emotion that comes from that is equally, if not harder for me than trying to just sacrifice to go out and invest. Being fit is really hard, but do you know what's hard too? Being fat. I'm 40 pounds down from my top, chubby Jonny face, right? Yes, I see you running. Yeah.
There are those in this room that he was pointing at me when I said being fat.
Which again, like, I've gone through it, like, all right, waking up, working out, tracking my calories, trying to eat a little bit less, like, all that's hard, but you know what? Being fat is hard, like, in a lot of other ways. You just have to choose your hard. And one of the things I've noticed too is a lot of people that end up being in their 30s and 40s having some of the same reasons why they're not investing, a lot of times just habits. If you built habits to sacrifice and put money over to your right side of the world, whether you start in your 20s, 30s, like those are going to keep going with you. But if you just keep coasting into the next year, thinking that somehow wealth will eventually you're just developing that habit, you know. And I'm in the phase where I can blame my kids for everything. Yeah, why I can't invest, why I'm tired, why I can't work out, you know. But again, you just have to choose what path that you want to go down the road of, right?
Yeah, if you look at the McKissicks, they started in, was it 1990?
I think they were 50.
Yeah.
54.
So here I am, I'm 62, and I figure there's an outside chance I may still be here in 20 years. And so I still have 20 years worth that I can still do stuff. And so does it matter? They made a goal. They wanted to add one property a year. And they said, we'll do one a year. And we have a 20-year goal. So in 2010, when they wrote the book Hold, they said we'd have 20 properties, each producing $1,000 a month. We'd have a $20,000 a month income. But they didn't hit that goal when they hit 2010. I think they were at 110 properties, commercial properties, and they were earning over $1 million.
Yeah.
You know, after 20 years. So where are you going to be in 20 years? Don't care what your age is. You're still going to be here or you're not.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter, right? You have to step up and do something.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd recommend you start in your 20s. If you haven't, then start right now, right? Who else had a comment? A couple more hands. Okay. All right. Then let's just hit a couple final tips and takeaways. Number one, do your balance sheet and P&L monthly. If you're not keeping track, you're not keeping score, you're not going to get anywhere. I don't care what your number is on your balance sheet, negative, zero, a little number, big number, do it every single month. That is the habit that helps you then dictate and create written wealth building plans. I'll tell you, the people that don't do balance sheets every month and know what their net worth is, highly unlikely they're going to ever have a wealth building plan. Like that is the scoreboard for you to have a wealth plan, right? Invest 30% of your total income. Again, whether you make 10,000, 100,000, or 500,000, like if you don't start with that habit, regardless your income level, you're never going to develop it when you make more money. Number three, have a written wealth building plan that cooperates with your business and earned income plan. Okay, those should be symbiotic. I have a lot too many agents that just have a business plan or earned income plan, and they do not have a written wealth plan. Okay. The next one is play with that time value of money calculator. Just play with it. Just keep changing numbers, play with it, and actually help customize what your plan is. A lot of times that is the simple scoreboard of the data that could then create your written wealth building plan. Fully understand the difference between earned income versus passive income. If you don't, study it. Keep going back and forth to it. If you don't even start with a little bit of passive income, so it starts conditioning you to pay attention to that, focus on it. And then again, income equals the short game, wealth building equals the long game, no doubt. Okay. All right. Any final things? Comments, ahas? Is that helpful? Who wants to be a millionaire? Okay, Creighton, go ahead.
Four quadrants. I just had one clarification. I got here a little bit late. The four quadrants, you're talking about the tax benefits. Is this you're talking to real estate professionals?
I'm talking to you guys in this room. Yep.
Who can gain that
write off
benefit
ordinary income with passive losses from your investments. Yep.
from their taxes. Yes. So that 12,000 seemed a little high. We should not promote that to our clients who are not real estate professionals designated on their taxes. But these are for real estate professionals. You get that additional benefit. Can you talk on that?
Well, again, the government allows you to write off things. Say you're a construction worker, right? You see all these brand new construction trucks filled with tools driving around the road. That is a business expense inside of the business of a construction company, right? When you're a real estate investor or you're designated as a real estate professional, for some reason they call this the gift of the IRS gods, right? Real estate by nature appreciates. It goes up in value. Every other business, most of the stuff you buy goes down in value, depreciates anywhere from 10 to 20% a year. So part of that is we have appreciation in reality, but then the IRS actually allows us to depreciate the value of that real estate over time, and the straight line method is over 27 and a half years. So for some reason, and again, this is pretty unique to the United States. I didn't realize until I studied outside the United States. Other countries, when they realize that values go up and the government allows us to write off the value of real estate, it's a fake expense that you add basically to your books, is crazy. Like, it is such a huge benefit. And RPAC and realtors will go to our graves fighting that the Congress never changed that, because we love it. But again, a real estate professional basically designates you that those losses from interest, depreciation, if you actually take a cash flow loss, you can take that loss and then go offset your income on the left side if you go make money in real estate sales. That's the whole secret sauce of being a real estate professional. We've got a couple spouses. We got a gal in Utah Realtor's office. Her husband plays for the NFL. I can't remember their names. She's on our luxury division, but he makes a bucket of money. It's $5-8 million a year. And I'm like, you need to go be a real estate agent so you could then be on your combined tax return. You could be designated as a real estate professional that can go help offset some of the income your husband's doing by then going out and buying a bunch of rental properties, right? It could save them millions of dollars in tax, right? So that same concept, but because he's a professional athlete, he couldn't also be designated as a real estate professional. That's why his spouse should be. Okay. Okay. Anything else on this? Go ahead.
Question about getting started and the 70%. So one thing in this market particularly is seller financing. So you might be able to find a deal with somebody that's willing to do seller financing that might not cost you $70,000 to get in.
Yep. Yeah, the first 3 or 4 deals, one was seller financing I did. We basically just took over his loan. Market was dropping. We got the price maybe a little bit above market value, but we took over his loan, so we didn't have to qualify for a loan. We had to do that path. I think we lost $100, $200 a month for a couple of years until rent went up. Another one, we did the BRRRR method, where we basically borrowed money to buy it, cash, and to fix it up. And then we cashed out refinance, and we built in our down payment. We did probably 2-ish owner occupants where we used our commission as a down payment. So pretty much all 4 of those first deals, because we just didn't have cash, or we potentially couldn't qualify for a mortgage because we had to wait for our tax returns. That's how we had to do it, right? Especially if you can be young and you don't have kids yet and stuff, and be scrappy and move into it. Highly recommend that. Otherwise, you just go make a bunch of money if you don't want to move, if you don't want the pain of all those complicated processes, and just put a down payment on. And we finally just had enough time, not enough time and a little bit more money, that we just started putting money down, because then the cash flow started catching up and it could actually contribute to lower that down payment. So cool. Anything else, Susie?
Clients and what the numbers would look like of their like non-real estate professionals.
Because to be designated as a real estate professional is 250 hours, 180 hours, 700.
More in real estate than in your other profession if you're not licensed. So if you're a doctor, you've got to prove that you spend more time working with
Yeah, it's almost identical to how I presented to you, with the exception if for some reason that's off the table, the real estate professional, they have a spouse, or for some reason they actually want to invest, whatever, I would just remove this one. I just probably would not talk about taxes. Yeah, sure. Yep.
Buying that is $2,000 to $4,000 to a non-real estate professional. $2,000 to $4,000 of savings in tax versus.
Yep. Yeah, so most likely this would end up being somewhere around like 3, 4, 5%, be a little bit lower number. But again, if you're at 12% lower, you're still at a 16% return. So I would do exactly that same thing. I have physically drawn this on a whiteboard with at least, I don't know, 150 potential or active investors in like some sort of appointment. And again, I sometimes will stick to one property, but if it gets out of date, you got to just grab a new property so it's a lot more valid. But then even at 16%, you look at 16%, again, this is 12%. 12% is still the 23 million. So add another 4%, you're probably looking at about 50 million over a 30-year career buying one a year. But again, one a year was my plan. But then again, it's like a pendulum swing, it starts to speed up because again, so many of them will start cash flowing. So instead of you actually having to go take 70 grand out of your income, it now is 60, 50, 30, 20. I'm even to the point now that I could probably keep going, buying a couple rentals a year without ever moving money from my income over. So it's just, you got to just keep recalculating your time value of money, how fast, how big of a number you're trying to get to, and how much work you're going to put into it, whether it's 10, 20 years. This to me still feels very slow for the average agent in our office. I think it's probably realistic the first 3 to 5, 10 years, and then 20 years is probably 30 years done in 20 years, realistically. Cool.
And where we get the copy of this?
For low monthly fee of, just kidding. Yeah. Yep. Which again, I'm the principal owner of this brokerage. I probably should not want this. I should want you to sell real estate till you're 95 years old. It probably would be better retention for us, but we're trying to build life's worth living, right? Businesses worth owning, careers worth having, yada, yada, right? Okay. Was this helpful? Okay. All right. Thank you.